Okay, well, before I wrap it up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Woodstock. Um, Hi, Grace Gardner here. Peace. Um, back to the naming. I named Rolling Stones, U2, Canned Heat, Sly and the Family Stone, Jefferson Airplane, U2, Pussy Riot. That's my last one. Um, Maroon 5, as most of you know, um, and Matchbox 20. But pretty much all of the big bands, not all, 70% of the more prominent bands of the last 50 years I named. But I also wrote with them, like I wrote with the Rolling Stones quite a bit. And I wrote with the Beatles. And so Woodstock was this idea that one of the MOOCs had of a way, because after I'd spend time with the bands, a lot of times they assumed I was part of the group. And I was never allowed to be, because I was never allowed to be famous. And you can read. You probably have read enough that you know that I wasn't allowed to be famous. So I'd be taken away, but they would continue to try to contact me, and they always tried to contact me through I guess what became the Rand Corporation, or whatever way that they initially contacted me. They would try to get me that way. And there was my phone calls, my personal phone calls, were all screened by them. I didn't know it. Oftentimes my phone, the only weird things that would happen, like at home, was my phone would ring a half a ring and then quit. And sometimes I'd pick it up, and all I'd get was a dial tone. Well, the actual call would go to somebody who would say she doesn't want to talk to you. She hates common people. Just weird, hard. They would make up stuff about me, and and tell that to the person trying to contact me, and don't call her again, she'll have you arrested, and this and that. And so then they'd have to give up. 90% of the time, people knew that they were being lied to, that I wasn't like that. But it gave me kind of a weird reputation. I don't know why people continued to come and ask for my help, to tell you the truth. But anyway, so all these bands wanted to play with me again and see me again. So somebody had the idea of inviting them to a place in New York, and we'd put on a concert in the middle of a field, and nobody would show up, and would give the band a chance to see me again and to play with me again. And so I didn't know, like, the whole backstory of why Woodstock was Woodstock. And the reason why it was so poorly run is because I was not included in the running of Woodstock. It happened on my 17th birthday in August of 69. And what Woodstock proved was that all this time that I was writing about peace and love and understanding, all those songs really did make a difference in the world. And all those bands who had gotten really pretty darn famous, Santana, you can't get much more famous than that. that their message was such that people were responding to it. And it wasn't just this little thing in a field that nobody knew about. It 1.5 million people showed up, and you see it in the in I was watching this movie that somebody made. It's a weird movie. It's very poorly edited. The reason why these things are so slow to come out is because they had to edit me out of everything. Like every time I played with a band, they'd edit me out of the footage, and or I was helping in the medic tent, and there's footage of that, but I've been edited out of that, and it's kind of jumbled. I don't like the movie I just saw. There is a movie called Woodstock that that's a little better edited. And I just saw that there's a museum. I don't know if it's still there. And it ended up that the festival, I think that what they did was they made 200,000 tickets, and they pre-sold most of them. So actually, they probably did have the money. But 1.5 million people show up. There's really not much you can do. It has to be a free concert, and and the amount of violence. I think there were 2 or 3 fistfights, and that was early on. That was people who crashed the gates, and then people who had paid for their tickets didn't like it, and there were fights that just lasted long enough for somebody to have a bloody nose. It wasn't for 1.5 million people. You got 3 bloody noses. That's pretty darn peaceful. And I think, and you hear it in the interviews of all the people, it's something else was happening that they could feel, that it wasn't just they weren't there for the music. And I talked to so many people who said that they are, they want peace. The Vietnam War was, I believe we got into the war. One of the reasons why Kennedy was killed was he wasn't going to send troops to Vietnam. And once he was killed, and before Johnson came in, they sent troops. And Johnson said he spent like 2 days signing his name to paper after paper after paper after paper. And he was told that was just for the transition of power to make him president. But in those papers, he signed something that sent troops to Vietnam. So he did it. He was lied to, and he was a lawyer. He told me he should have known better. He knows not to trust those people, and that's how Vietnam started. It wasn't. It was not a legal war. We didn't ever even declare war on Vietnam. We just sent troops. And then it got escalated and escalated and escalated, and it was all just a money, There was nothing purposeful or righteous about our being in Vietnam, and I knew it, and I felt it, and it was not right. We were lied to, and I wasn't having it. So anytime I would get together with somebody and write a song, it was always about peace, Next stop is Vietnam, and it's 5, 6, 7, open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. But Bob Dylan and I wrote tons of anti-war songs. Anti-war, by the way. my word. The peace symbol is my symbol, and the peace fingers, that's mine. And so the people who showed up at Woodstock were people in search of peace and thought that we all had the same when we all had the same thing in common. We wanted peace, and we wanted a better world. We wanted to leave a better world for our children. And so in that respect, we were all family. And the overwhelming feeling was to help the guy next to you. You know, if somebody was killed, not killed, but poisoned, there was some poison that went around as acid. And I do believe that was the mooks in the military that did that. That's what I was told anyway. You know, if somebody was sick, the guy next to him who didn't know him was the one who, you know, brought water and gave them blankets and did whatever they could for that person. I think in the beginning what we did was we airlifted them out because New York State Thruway was closed. You really couldn't get in or out for a while. But, you know, got on the microphones a couple of times to warn people not to take the brown acid, you know. But it was like you knew everybody there. And person after person who's interviewed, they all say it's more than the music. It's something more. It's a movement. It is the revolution that Bernie Sanders still wants. I wrote that song. Talk about the revolution. Well, you know. That Beatles song, I wrote that. And give peace a chance. Imagine all kinds of songs about peace. So, and even the people, now they interviewed some people on this particular little film in the neighborhood who didn't like it, who didn't like Woodstock, and we did ruin the fields. But again, no, who would have expected 1.5 million people to show up in near Middletown, New York? You know, just in a farm community in nobody thought nobody thought that would happen. So I think in that respect, I think we got together when that many people got together and felt a kinship and a brotherhood with everybody, with 1.5 million people. We really did start to feel like we could change the world. I didn't expect any violence. I never would have even thought that it wouldn't occur to me that if you got 1.5 million people together that there would be violence. You know, there wasn't anything like that. And if somebody needed something, somebody else was there and gave it to them. There was really no need to steal. If we do get to the point, and we will get to the point, but I don't think I'll ever see it, but I think we will get to the point where there is world peace, and everybody believes that. The people working against me all these years are the ones who believe it the most. if we do get to the point where there is world peace, that'll be a byproduct. It all will just all this stuff with the mooks trying to poison the environment and poison the water. All that will go away, and people will just help each other because we're all brothers. We are all brothers. And even if you do believe in Adam and Eve, or if you don't believe in Adam and Eve, there was a first. There were original people, and there was a garden, and we will get back to the garden. It's a long time away from the garden, but we've been gone long enough, and it's time to rise up and think peace. And think of your brothers as the guy next to you as your brother, whether he's black or white or Hispanic or Indian or Muslim. We're all brothers. And that is what we have to focus on. And well, we should have been focusing on that all along. And we got away from it. And there are people who think that because we got away from it, that shows power. And it doesn't. It shows weakness. And Donald Trump is wrong. You don't get respect through power, and you don't get respect by bullying people, and you don't get respect by saying we have nuclear weapons, we should use them. It just makes the United States look foolish and greedy. And my only consolation is that Trump didn't really win. Trump didn't win. He didn't even win the electoral vote. He didn't win at all. And it would surprise me if he got 2% of the vote. But he may have gotten as much as 5% of the vote, which is the thing that keeps me motivated, is that I know that the American people did not vote for him. This is not the America anybody had in mind but him and his mother. And a handful of misguided mooks who now are running the show. They're running amok at this point. And making America look foolish. And Americans are what makes America great. Not nuclear power. That makes America weak. And someday we'll all get together and show how great we are.